In Captain America: The Winter Soldier, good old Steve Rogers is trying to get himself acquainted with modern life, and to do so, he's got a nice tidy list of things to check out from after his big freeze in 1945. Now this includes, of course, Star Wars, another property scooped up by the Great Mouse God, and which pops up time and time again throughout the MCU. Cause hey, if you spend billions of dollars to own a franchise, might as well stick it in with the other billion-dollar franchise you own. Me? I just like being able to afford a large order of fries. First off, well, second off, because I already mentioned the Winter Soldier pull, but whatever. A whole lot of arms get chopped off in that there MCU, especially in Phase 2. While this may seem like a coincidence, Darth Feige himself has said that all the limb displacement in that span of movies is a reference to the Emperor Mousepateen's at that time recent acquisition of the Star Wars property. Now the logic being, well, Empire Strikes Back was the second chapter in that franchise, and well, this was Phase 2 of this one. Also, gotta appease the mouse. Now in total we get 8 choppins. Killian's arm in Iron Man 3, Bucky's whole gimmick in Winter Soldier, Groot's poor arms in Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as Nebula's hand at the end of that film so she can make her escape. Then there's Thor's kind of fake hand chopping, and of course this big galook over here. Then we got Klaue's origin story in Age of Ultron, and finally a slightly more creative de-arming in the form of Darren Cross's right arm in Ant-Man. Hey, you know what I say when people try to criticize the MCU? Hands off, Buster. Spider-Man: Homecoming, of course, has one of the more obvious references in the form of that poor innocent Lego Death Star, which is basically given the Gwen Stacy treatment and should be grieved just as hard. R.I.P., you beautiful, expensive model. In Spider-Man: Far From Home, Mace Windu himself, Samuel L. Jackson, aka Mace freaking Windu, breaks the space-time continuum before Peter even gets a chance with this line.
Stark said you wouldn't get that because it's not a Star Wars reference.
And there's a TIE fighter in this scene. We technically get 2 Star Wars references in Far From Home, however one was relegated to deleted scene turned short film, Peter's To-Do List, in which young Mr. Parker runs around trying to get all of his last-minute business done before his ill-fated Euro trip. In one scene, Peter sells all of his old toys so he can buy MJ a present. Well, all of his toys, save for Lobot, whom you should remember as Lando Calrissian's sidekick in Empire Strikes Back. And no, I don't know his full backstory. Get off my case, man. Meanwhile, in Civil War, Peter sends mixed signals by describing Empire as, quote, that really old movie, which produces, I would say, one of the more relatable responses from Rhodey.
Jesus, Tony, how old is this guy?
I don't know, I didn't carbon date him, he's on the young side.
Back to Ant-Man, but keeping with the AT-AT references, in addition to, you know, the whole teensy arm moment, another Yellowjacket related Star Wars reference comes in the form of his laser blasts. Sound familiar? Meanwhile, in the distant yesteryears of 2008, aka back when I had a full head of hair and optimism, we got 2 MCU movies, Iron Man and The Incredible Hulk. And yeah, we're talking about the latter. In that oft-forgotten, but pretty fun little flick, we get this scene in a soda factory that leads to Stan Lee learning the dangers of carbonated beverages. Anyway, if you listen closely, you can hear a lot of the same sounds used in the carbonite freezing process in the soda factory machines. Fun fact, Hulk's supervising Foley artist, Gary A. Hecker, was also an uncredited Foley artist on Empire Strikes Back. Coincidence? I don't know, maybe. In Thor: The Dark World, we get a suspiciously similar fighter crash landing sequence to one in the cinematic trailer for Star Wars: The Old Republic. Now that game came out in 2009, while Dark World premiered in 2013. There's actually a few similarities between Star Wars properties and Dark World, such as the shields used in Episode 1 versus the ones used to protect Asgard, which are in turn similar to what's used in Wakanda in Infinity War, and look, many of these are probably coincidences, but also, like, Disney owns everything, so whatever, I guess. Apathy. And in Guardians of the Galaxy, we get a big ol' holographic head talking to a bad guy about bad guy stuff, not unlike other bad guys talking about bad guy stuff. Also in Guardians, there's Thanos turning his chair in a similar fashion to the Emperor, although again, this is kind of a fairly common trope, but also, this nerd right here, yeah, he knows what he's doing. Elsewhere in Marvel's Space Wars, there's a potential callback to Phantom Menace in the form of Star-Lord's fancy flat maneuvers, which may or may not be in reference to young Anakin's innate skills at murdering space stations chock full of offensive alien stereotypes. Now, I guess I'd also be missing out if I didn't mention that Peter Quill's Star-Lord is basically just some muscle-bound schlub cosplaying as Han Solo with rocket boots, or Han Solo, whatever you want to, whatever. There's more or less overt references in Guardians, but a lot of them are tough to pin as definitively Star Wars, so much as just big space movie. And rounding out the films, Age of Ultron also references Empire Strikes Back, not only in the aforementioned handoff situation, but also in its opening, which takes place in a snowy battlefield, something Joss Whedon has been open about taking his inspiration from. Now, on to some, let's get some TV in here. I'm never gonna do that again. I'm sorry, I apologize. In What If T'Challa Became a Star-Lord, we get a brief glimpse at an X-Wing amongst an assortment of Easter aircraft. In What If Ultron Won, Hawkeye, who has a robotic arm, Natch, has this quote.
The Death Star plans are not in the main computer.
Oh, also in that episode, we straight up just get a glimpse at Mustafar as Ultron and the Watcher are fighting through dimensions. The fun continues in Episode 9, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath?
All too easy.
Which is an obvious reference to this line from Empire Strikes Back.
All too easy.
Over in Netflix land, in Daredevil of course, we have another in a long succession of hands getting chopped off, but more directly, Matt's best pal slash associate, Foggy Nelson, does this simply uncanny Yoda impression.
What are you looking for, my young Padawan?
Jessica Jones, meanwhile, has maybe my favorite reference in this whole list when Kilgrave does his best Obi-Wan.
Whoa, whoa, what are you doing?
We can go about our business. Move along. Move along.
Oh, also he makes a dude chop off some limbs, because that's just what was hip back in 2015. The Defenders has its own set of callbacks as well, notably Stick being a total baller and chopping off his own hand. But then there's also Misty Knight getting her arm chopped off in anticipation of that sick robot appendage. That series, which if you've forgotten all of it, that's completely normal. Don't worry, it literally happens to all of us. I remember almost nothing. That series also features Matt's line to Elektra.
There is goodness in you. I know, because I felt it.
Which you definitely remember from Return of the Jedi. Even the Punisher got in on the action with this Naboo fighter showing up in the episode Kandahar. Man, I really want to hit up a toy store right now. Is that weird? Hulu's slice of the Marvel pie, Runaways, features Star Wars Battlefront being played by Alex multiple times. Well, I think it's like twice, but you know, that's technically multiple. He also has a whole freaking Star Wars Pez collection and a not too shocking, nerdy voicemail.
Hey, currently training on Dagobah. Leave a message.
Dude just loves Star Wars, and that makes him relatable. We also get a lot of little shots here and there, whether it's this R2-D2 flash drive, this arcade cabinet, or even the random use of the literal words Star Wars and hyperdrive. It's a nerdy show. People still say arcade cabinet, right? I'm not that old, right? But Runaways is not quite as nerdy as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh boy. I guess they also have more seasons to be. Anyway, that Agent Coulson loves a good callback. He does so when he wakes up on Maveth, he quotes Leia, he waxes poetic about Admiral Akbar.
I always felt that Admiral Akbar was the unsung hero.
He also gets his hand cut off to cement his dedication to the fandom. Elsewhere, we get more arm chopping. We get this Star Wars shirt Bobby's rocking. We get these adorable Star Wars bed sheets, this Darth Vader clock, Mace hashing out his nerdery with Coulson, and a great exchange between Fitz and Lance.
I love you.
I know.
These aren't the droids you're looking for. I've got a bad feeling about this.
And finally, thank God, this great line from Skye.
Mr. and Mrs. Boba Fett will be here any minute.
Or Daisy or Quake or whatever. That woman had a lot of names.
What else you got?
Now this is all well and good, but what about all the other Disney Easter eggs hiding in the MCU? What's that? That's my next video? Gee, I wish I knew that while I was combing through 308 hours of intellectual property.